My daughter said, "Don't ruin my big day. Stay away." I arrived in white. Before I tell you my whole story, let me know in the comments what part of the world you're listening to me from. My name is Sarah Martinez. I'm 38 years old, and I've been a registered nurse at Mercy General Hospital in small-town Kansas for the past 15 years. I also run a modest bed and breakfast that my late grandmother left me, nestled on 3 acres of prairie land that blooms with sunflowers every summer. For 18 years, I've been both mother and father to my daughter Emma, ever since her dad walked out when she was just 6 months old, claiming he wasn't ready for the responsibility of raising a child. I remember the exact moment I knew something fundamental had shifted in our relationship. It was 3 months ago, during her final semester at Northwestern University. I was driving my old Honda Civic through Chicago's expensive Lincoln Park neighborhoods to bring Emma some homemade tamales and her favorite chocolate chip cookies, the same recipe my grandmother had taught me when I was Emma's age. When I knocked on her apartment door, carrying the containers I'd driven 4 hours to deliver, I heard her quickly shushing someone inside before opening it just a crack. "Mom, what are you doing here?" she whispered nervously. "I wanted to surprise you with your favorites, mija," I said, holding up the containers I'd driven 4 hours to deliver. Emma stepped outside and closed the door. You can't just show up anymore. I have sophisticated friends now. They wouldn't understand our dynamic. Our dynamic. Those words hit me like a physical blow to the chest. Our dynamic was me working double shifts at the hospital to pay for her private school tuition at Sacred Heart Academy. Our dynamic was me selling my grandmother's antique jewelry collection to fund her study abroad semester in France. Our dynamic was me taking out a second mortgage on the bed and breakfast to cover her Northwestern University expenses because she deserved the best education money could buy. But standing there in that sterile apartment hallway, looking at my daughter's embarrassed face as she glanced around to make sure none of her neighbors could see me, I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Shame, pure, undiluted shame. She was ashamed of me, the woman who had sacrificed everything so she could stand in this expensive building, wearing designer clothes I couldn't afford. "I understand, Emma," I said quietly. "I'll call next time." As I walked back to my car, I heard laughter from inside her apartment. Rich, careless laughter that carried the sound of privilege and entitlement, the very things I had worked my entire adult life to provide her access to. My hands shook as I started the engine, but I told myself it was just a phase. College changes people. She'd come around once she graduated and remembered where she came from. I was wrong. That awkward encounter was just the beginning of watching my daughter slowly, but systematically, erase me from her new life. The signs had always been there. I just hadn't wanted to see them. The way she stopped bringing friends home after high school graduation. How she gradually stopped speaking Spanish around her college friends during their rare visits. The subtle corrections when I'd mention our family traditions, my work at the hospital, or stories from her childhood in our small Kansas town. 3 weeks later, Emma called with news that should have filled my heart with joy. "Mom, I'm engaged. His name is Brandon Whitmore. His family owns luxury hotels across the Midwest. We met at a charity gala. When do I get to meet him? We should have dinner." "Actually, Mom, about that." Over the following weeks, Emma introduced new rules. She couldn't visit because she was too busy with wedding planning. When I offered to help, she deflected. Brandon's mother has very specific ideas. The Whitmores have certain standards that need to be maintained. I focused on what I could contribute. I've been saving money for your wedding since you were little." That wasn't entirely true, and we both knew it. I'd been saving, but life had a way of requiring those savings for other priorities. When Emma needed a top-of-the-line laptop for college, there went $2,000 from the wedding fund. When her study abroad program required an emergency medical procedure that insurance didn't fully cover, another $3,500 disappeared. When she wanted to do an unpaid internship in New York City, instead of working summers to contribute to her expenses, I covered her rent and living costs for 3 months. But in the past year, I'd been rebuilding that fund with single-minded determination. I picked up extra shifts at the hospital, working every holiday and weekend that became available. I started cleaning houses for some of the wealthy families in town, swallowing my pride as I scrubbed toilets and folded laundry for people who probably earned in a month what I made in a year. I even took on additional guests at the bed and breakfast, converting my own bedroom into a rental space and sleeping on the couch in my living room. By the time Emma got engaged, I had managed to save $15,000, not a fortune by her new standards, but enough to contribute meaningfully to her wedding and show her that her mother's love came with tangible support. "That's so sweet, Mom," Emma said when I proudly told her about the money, and I could hear her typing something on her laptop while we talked. But honestly, Brandon's family is handling most of the major expenses. They have connections with the best wedding planners and vendors in Chicago. Exclusive people you probably wouldn't be familiar with. Their level of sophistication is quite specific. There was that word again. Sophisticated. It had become Emma's favorite way to describe everything I wasn't. Everything I couldn't provide. Everything that separated her new world from the one where she'd grown up. The real blow came when I realized just how deep this rejection went. I was working a particularly brutal 12-hour shift at the hospital when my phone buzzed with a notification from Facebook. Emma had posted her engagement photos, and I ducked into a supply closet to look at them properly. They were stunning. Professional shots taken at what looked like an expensive resort. Emma was wearing a designer dress I'd never seen before, something that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. And the engagement ring on her finger was so large, it caught the light like a small chandelier. But what broke my heart wasn't the luxury, or even the fact that I was seeing these photos for the first time, along with hundreds of strangers on social media. It was the caption, "So grateful for my future in-laws, who have shown me what true family means. Patricia and Robert Whitmore have welcomed me with open arms and hearts. Can't wait to officially become a Whitmore and start this new chapter, surrounded by people who truly understand me." Not a single mention of the family she already had. Not one word about the woman who had raised her, loved her, sacrificed for her every single day for 22 years. I scrolled through comments from Brandon's mother. "Welcome to the family, darling. We're so thrilled Brandon found someone who truly understands our values and standards." Emma had responded with heart emojis and "can't wait to be part of such an amazing family." The exclusions became obvious after that. Emma posted about dress shopping with the girls, none of whom were her childhood friends. Bridal showers I wasn't invited to. Wedding planning sessions I wasn't consulted about. When I asked about my role in the wedding, Emma's response was rehearsed. "Mom, Brandon's family moves in very specific social circles. The guest list has been curated. Everyone attending will be from similar backgrounds, people who understand certain social expectations." "I understand social expectations, Emma. I raised you with manners and respect. It's not the same thing. These people went to boarding schools, belong to country clubs, speak multiple languages. I can't have cultural differences that would make everyone uncomfortable." Cultural differences. My own daughter was talking about me like I was a foreign concept she needed to manage. The call that changed everything came on a Tuesday evening in March. I was at home, updating the bed and breakfast's website with photos of the spring wildflowers that were just starting to bloom, looking forward to hearing about Emma's latest wedding plans. When her name appeared on my phone screen, I answered with genuine excitement, still believing we could find our way back to each other. Hi, Mija. How's everything going? Did you find a caterer you liked? Mom, we need to talk. Her tone was different this time. Colder, more formal. It sounded like the voice she probably used in business meetings. I've been thinking a lot about the wedding, and I need to be completely honest with you about something important. My heart started racing, but I kept my voice steady and loving. Of course, honey. What's on your mind? The thing is, Brandon's family has very specific expectations for this wedding. It's going to be, well, it's going to be a high society event. Very formal, very traditional, with all the customs and protocols that come with that level of sophistication. The kind of thing where everyone knows exactly how to behave in those situations, where one wrong move or inappropriate comment could be remembered and talked about for years. I waited, sensing she was building up to something that would devastate me completely. Mom, I love you, but your presence would make things incredibly complicated. You don't know these people, and honestly, I'm worried you might embarrass me in front of Brandon's family. The words hit like a slap. Emma, are you telling me not to come to your wedding? It would be better for everyone if you stayed home. This is my big day, my chance to start fresh. Don't ruin it by being selfish. Selfish. The woman who had worked 2 jobs for 18 years, who had sold her grandmother's wedding ring to pay for Emma's SAT prep courses, who had taken out loans she was still paying off to fund her daughter's dreams, who had given up dating and any chance of remarrying because Emma always came first. I was being called selfish for wanting to witness my only child's wedding. I've already told Brandon and his family that you won't be able to attend due to work obligations at the hospital. They understand that nurses sometimes can't get time off for personal events, especially during busy periods. It's actually a perfect excuse that makes you look dedicated and professional. I found my voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. Emma, I am your mother. I raised you from the day you were born. I sacrificed everything I had, everything I wanted, everything I dreamed of, so you could have the education and opportunities that got you to this point in your life. That doesn't mean you get to be part of my future. Some things are bigger than family obligations. After she hung up, I sat staring at her graduation photo on my refrigerator. Then I opened the lockbox containing the $15,000 I'd saved. Money that would fund a celebration I wasn't allowed to attend. That night, I didn't cry. Something crystallized inside me. I looked around my house, at evidence of a life spent serving someone else's dreams, and made a decision. Emma wanted me to stay away. Fine. But I wasn't disappearing quietly. If she was ashamed of where she came from, maybe it was time to remind her what she was trying to erase. I researched wedding attire for formal Chicago ceremonies, then browsed online dress shops for something specific. Something white. Something elegant that would make a statement without saying a word. The dress I chose was perfect. Classic A-line in champagne white, knee length, elegant sleeves. It cost $400 from my emergency fund, but when I tried it on, the saleswoman said I looked absolutely radiant. I spent 3 months preparing. I booked a hotel near the Fairmont, got my hair professionally styled, and prepared myself mentally. This wasn't revenge. This was about reclaiming my dignity. On June 15th, I took my time getting ready in my Chicago hotel room. For the first time in months, I felt beautiful. More than that, I felt powerful. The Fairmont was exactly what I'd expected. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, opulent elegance. I followed signs to the grand ballroom, where I could hear the string quartet playing. The ceremony had begun. I slipped quietly into the back row, choosing an aisle seat where I'd be visible but not disruptive. Emma was at the altar in a magazine-worthy dress, standing next to Brandon in his perfectly tailored tuxedo. During the ring exchange, Emma glanced toward the audience and saw me. Her face went completely white. She staggered slightly, and Brandon reached out to steady her, looking confused. Emma's attention was split for the rest of the ceremony, her hands visibly shaking. After they walked back down the aisle, I waited until most guests had left, then approached where she was receiving congratulations from Brandon's family. "Emma," I said quietly. The group turned toward me. Brandon stepped forward immediately with a warm smile. "Mrs. Martinez! What a wonderful surprise. Emma told us you couldn't make it because of work." I looked directly at my daughter. I managed to get the time off after all. Brandon's mother seemed genuinely interested in meeting me. "How lovely that you could be here. Emma has told us so much about how independent she's always been." "Yes, I raised her to be independent. Sometimes I think I did too good a job." I spent the next hour making polite conversation with guests who had no idea they were witnessing family drama. Brandon's family seemed genuinely lovely, people who might have welcomed me if Emma had given them the chance. Finally, Emma approached me by the window overlooking Lake Michigan. "We need to talk. Now." She led me to a small alcove. Her facade was cracking. "How could you do this to me? I specifically asked you not to come. You asked me to disappear from your life. That's different. You're embarrassing me. Everyone's asking questions about why I never mentioned my mother, why you weren't involved in planning. And what exactly are you telling them? I don't know. I'm making things up, trying to explain why my own mother showed up uninvited. By existing, by being your mother, by wearing a nice dress and making polite conversation." I shook my head. "Emma, the only person embarrassing you is you. You don't understand. These people have expectations, standards. What about my expectations? What about expecting my daughter to want me at her wedding? What about basic respect after 18 years of sacrifice? I never asked you to sacrifice anything. No, you just accepted it all without question. The tuition, college fund, study abroad, money. You took everything, then decided I wasn't sophisticated enough to share your success." For the first time, Emma looked truly shaken. Mom, I didn't mean..." "You didn't mean what? To hurt me, to exclude me." I took a deep breath. "Emma, I love you more than life itself, but I won't allow you to treat me like something to be ashamed of." "I'm not ashamed of you." "Then why was I excluded from everything? Why tell your in-laws I couldn't get time off instead of saying you wanted your mother there?" She couldn't answer because we both knew the truth. "I want you to be happy, but I also want you to remember something." I touched her cheek gently. "The woman who raised you to be strong enough to build this life, she's not going anywhere, and she's not apologizing for who she is anymore." I kissed her forehead and walked away. I didn't stay for dinner. I had made my point. But walking through the Fairmont lobby, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Pride in myself. 3 months later, on a quiet September evening, when the Kansas prairie was painted gold with sunset, Emma called me. Not texted, not messaged on social media, but actually called. Her voice was different, softer, more uncertain than I'd heard it in years. "Mom, I've been thinking," she said without preamble, "about family, about gratitude, about the difference between sophistication and class, about what really matters." It wasn't a full apology, not yet, but it was a beginning, the first crack in the wall she'd built between us. "I miss you," she whispered, and I could hear tears in her voice. "I miss our Sunday morning phone calls and your terrible jokes, and the way you always knew exactly what to say when I was scared or worried about something." Today, 18 months later, we're rebuilding our relationship slowly. Emma comes home for holidays now, bringing Brandon. He helps with the bed and breakfast and enjoys our small-town life. Emma's learning to appreciate where she came from. The $15,000 I'd saved, I used it to renovate the bed and breakfast, adding a garden room for intimate weddings. Emma helped design it and cried at the plaque. In honor of mothers who sacrifice everything and ask nothing in return. Most importantly, I learned something crucial that day in Chicago. Love doesn't require you to disappear. Sacrifice doesn't mean accepting disrespect. Sometimes, the most powerful thing is simply showing up with dignity, intact. The white dress wasn't about revenge. It was about refusing to be erased. About saying, I exist, I matter, and I won't disappear because my presence makes you uncomfortable. If you're reading this and recognizing yourself, the mother who gives everything, who's been made to feel not enough, hear this. You are enough. You have always been enough. You don't have to shrink yourself to fit someone else's vision. You don't have to apologize for your life lived in service of love. You don't have to accept being treated as less than because you didn't come from money. Know your worth. Set boundaries. Demand respect. Never apologize for loving yourself enough to demand basic decency. Sometimes the most radical thing is refusing to be invisible in your story. Sometimes showing up in white is exactly the statement needed. Sometimes the greatest gift is teaching that love doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. What's your story? Have you felt erased by someone you loved? Share this if it resonated. And let's build a community of women who refuse to be erased. Like this if you believe love should never require disappearing. Comment with your boundary-setting experiences. Subscribe for more stories about finding your voice and standing in your power. Because the most beautiful thing you can wear isn't designer clothes or expensive jewelry. It's your unshakable dignity, your knowledge of worth, your refusal to be diminished by anyone, even those you love most. And that never goes out of style.